Bitcoin dominance has been in a macro uptrend ever since the late 2022 year. It's been in a strong macro uptrend, offering very short altcoin windows because, of course, whenever market dominance for Bitcoin declines, this is where money flows into altcoins. But when Bitcoin dominance increases in its dominance, this is where Bitcoin tends to become the main dominant player in the crypto market. So since late 2022, we've had very few altcoin windows because Bitcoin is in a strong macro uptrend. Today, we're going to be talking about Bitcoin dominance in a lot of detail, as well as how this Bitcoin dominance influences altcoin valuations in the market. So subscribe to the channel for more videos like this in the future. Like this video if you enjoy content like this going forward, and let's dive right into it. So historically speaking, we tend to develop Bitcoin dominance macro market structures below this red region of resistance. This is typically when we find lows in Bitcoin dominance. And in this previous cycle, 2018 to 2019, let's say, this was an ascending triangle. So a higher low at the base of this Bitcoin dominance and this red region of resistance being the top of that ascending triangle. We broke out from the top of that ascending triangle, retested it into new support, enabling trend continuation. And so this ascending triangle preceded the macro uptrend in Bitcoin dominance. In this cycle, we can see a clear wedging structure, which we saw lots of consolidation in Bitcoin dominance, and we've since, of course, in early 2023, seen a breakout from this structure. And of course, this historical area of rejection and resistance has been turned into new support to enable further upside in this macro uptrend, once again turning it into support at higher and higher lows each and every single time, which only adds further strength to this macro uptrend in Bitcoin dominance. So we've been in a massive uptrend for a long time, very few altcoin windows in the meantime. And the reason that this Bitcoin dominance chart is so important, before we talk about this phase, before we talk about the breakout into this range, it's really important to understand why Bitcoin dominance is so important. And this has everything to do with the crypto money flow cycle, because people need to put cash into the market, fiat, whether that's euros, USD, or pounds, GBP. They need to put that fiat into the market to buy Bitcoin. And then once people see price appreciation in their Bitcoin positions, they'll enjoy a bit of profits, which they'd like to circulate into large caps like Ethereum, and then into smaller and smaller capped altcoins, going into meme coins and so on. So as we see the money flow cycle go down in this respect, we tend to see profits get circulated more and more and more into lower and lower caps. The risk appetite increases as we go lower across the money flow cycle. And so when we see Bitcoin dominance increasing in its market share, in its market dominance, this is where most of the capital is residing, really. People tend to hold Bitcoin when Bitcoin dominance goes up. But when we see Bitcoin dominance go down, then we see moments where that market dominance is lost in Bitcoin, and Bitcoin holders tend to circulate their money into altcoins, large caps, mid caps, and low caps. So going back to this chart, during red periods for Bitcoin dominance, this is where altcoin dominance actually grows stronger. This is where altcoin dominance increases, and we see altcoin valuations in their prices go up. And you can see that there are very few altcoin windows in this respect. In Q4, we saw altcoin season, so that was a 2-month period of altcoin valuations going up. And in Q3, Q2 maybe of 2023, we also saw a great time. We also saw a great time earlier this year, Q1, but it's been very difficult to find an edge in the altcoin market because we've seen such strong market dominance from Bitcoin. So generally, this is a macro uptrend for Bitcoin, and it doesn't look at this moment, unless we were, of course, to reject from 57.5%, unless we were to reject from here to drop lower into the blue level of 53%, unless we reject from green to go into blue, then we don't have an opportunity for another altcoin window. And let's talk about that in a bit more detail. Because right now we only have the monthly close just a few days away, really, a couple of days away, and the monthly close above the green level of 57.5% is essential to position Bitcoin dominance for a retest of the green level here, enabling a fantastic increase in Bitcoin dominance from 58%, roughly speaking, to 71% approximately. And we've seen that happen in 2017, 2018, where we broke 57%, this green level, rallying to the red region of resistance, 71%. This is where we saw Bitcoin really absorb all of the market share, all of the money in the money flow cycle, all investor interest as Bitcoin really just rallied going into the end of that bull market. And in 2019, we saw a similar situation take place where Bitcoin was once again king in the market. But just notice what happens after we reject from 71%. We see phenomenal altcoin seasons. So we essentially see these portions in the crypto money flow cycle. We see this phase in the money flow cycle where money trickles down into altcoins increase in their valuations, and people profit circulate into altcoins. And Bitcoin moves sideways, maybe pulls back a bit, but altcoins as a whole rise phenomenally well. So in 2017, we saw a dramatic drop in altcoin dominance. We saw the same thing happen in this period in the market cycle. Of course, we saw the same thing happen in late 2019, but this wasn't such a strong and sharp decline. It took a bit of time, but we still saw a lot of altcoin valuations really perform well in the market. Altcoins really seeing phenomenal breakouts. But in, of course, 2021, we saw a phenomenal altcoin season where Bitcoin dominance dropped phenomenally. And its rejections from 71% that increase the probability for downside in Bitcoin dominance, which means that altcoin dominance grows and altcoin valuations go towards the upside. And this is exactly where the money is made. So rejections from the red 71% point for market dominance for Bitcoin, that precedes downside. And that's really good for altcoins, really. So we've seen 3 periods like that in the history of Bitcoin dominance dating back to 2017. And so in the future, that's something maybe we need to watch out for a rejection from 71% back into 57%, maybe even lower into the 40% Bitcoin dominance moment. So what we're looking for really is this sort of move, like we've seen in the past, but this sort of move, that's what we're really watching out for in the future, from 71% to 40% if history were to repeat. Of course, this could be lower, but it's all contingent on price, or at least Bitcoin dominance, monthly closing above 57.5%, like this, exactly like this. And it's on the cusp of doing that, but maybe it won't do that this month. Maybe it could do it next month or in the month after that. But it's really important when Bitcoin actually breaks out in this price action, because when Bitcoin breaks out in its price action to new all-time highs, I think we'd get a monthly close above 57.5% in Bitcoin dominance, and that's what would enable expansion all the way to 71%. Ideally, and that's when you want to be out of altcoins ideally, because this is when altcoins are going to be shedding their valuations, because everybody's going to be hopping into Bitcoin trying to chase the Bitcoin uptrend, and rightfully so. And this is where altcoins are going to be losing their valuation, because investors are going to be jumping away from altcoin holdings, selling their altcoin investments, all to jump on the Bitcoin uptrend in the price action until we reject from 71%, and then the opposite happens. Bitcoin's price action maybe starts to dwindle a bit. We start to see consolidation in Bitcoin's price action, and altcoins start to gallop and really enjoy a period of alt season that we haven't seen in years. And this is exactly what we need to be watching out for, because that rejection from 71% would get us to 57% at least. And then we'd have to watch out whether we get a bounce like we got in 2020, where we revisit 71% again, which would, of course, be good for Bitcoin price action and Bitcoin holders, but not good for altcoins and altcoin holders, because altcoins would shed their valuations once Bitcoin dominance increases. So it would be interesting to see once we rally from here to 71% in the future and reject from here to get back to 57%, losing 57%, and we could drop into the low 50s. or maybe even the high 40s, but that's a story for another day. Let's talk about the technical uptrend that Bitcoin dominance is in and has been in since 2023, the very beginning of 2023. Bitcoin dominance has been in this fantastic uptrend, this technical uptrend, that if we do fail a monthly close above 57.5%, then realistically, Bitcoin dominance could dwindle into this technical uptrend here, and holding this technical uptrend would only facilitate further increase in Bitcoin dominance to once again try and challenge this 57.5% mark in the future. So reject from here back into the technical uptrend to bounce back here. That's a possible scenario in the future. There could be a scenario where we just consolidate below this resistance here without pulling back, and then monthly close above here and then increase once again. There are many ways to skin the proverbial cat, but we need to watch out for how 57.5% is going to treat Bitcoin dominance right now. Do we see a bit of a dip, and in that same vein enable a small altcoin window like we've seen over here or over here? I don't know if it's going to turn into a 2-month altcoin window right over here. It is a possibility, but we have to understand that as long as this light blue technical uptrend holds, then we're not going to get too big of an altcoin window, and it might not even be a long one as that. But losing this technical uptrend would get us back into the 53% level, which is where we've consolidated for Bitcoin dominance for the past few months, really. So losing this technical uptrend could be a big deal, but this is generally a macro uptrend overall. We haven't really seen many corrections in Bitcoin dominance, and this green level could be a resistance to reckon with if we don't get a monthly close like this. Because a monthly close just like this relative to the green resistance, well, then it's all systems go probably to enable price, or at least Bitcoin dominance expansion. But let's talk about this current phase that Bitcoin dominance is in at the moment, because historically, we've seen consolidation in Bitcoin dominance for 300 days in the past. That was from mid 2018 to mid 2019, roughly speaking. And we've seen rejections from the green, 57.5% resistance, back into the blue support of 53.87%, maybe some downside wicking into the low 50s. But we've seen this zigzagging in Bitcoin dominance for a long time, 300 days in fact. And of course, the green candles here mean that Bitcoin dominance is in Bitcoin, so altcoins won't be doing really well. But if we see red candles, then that's where altcoins perform quite well, and they have that month-long window, maybe even 2 months, that they can perform well. But generally speaking, you can see that we haven't really seen many altcoin windows during this 182-day period. And that's a shame, because altcoins haven't really been able to gallop and increase in valuations. But could they potentially? Because historically speaking, it's only 182 days of consolidation. And if we're going to see a repeat of what we've seen in the past, then maybe we should be consolidating for another 120 days here. So will history repeat before we see that phenomenal breakout and expansion in Bitcoin dominance to 71%? Do we need to still consolidate for another 120 days in Bitcoin dominance, enabling maybe some small altcoin windows in the meantime? Is that on the cards in the next 120 days? Because that's something that we need to keep in mind, because history has shown us that it takes 300 days of consolidation around here before we can reasonably break out into this macro range from 57.5% to 71%. But we need this technical trigger for that to occur, because if we get a monthly close below the green level, then upside wicks could occur, and then we go down anyway in Bitcoin dominance, which would enable altcoin valuations to skyrocket, but only for a short period of time of maybe a few weeks. So upside wicks beyond here, they could occur, but if that monthly close doesn't occur, then downside is a possibility into this technical uptrend right over here, and that's going to be a possibility over the next 120 days, because history is suggesting that. However, if we get a monthly close here, then maybe this period of consolidation will simply end at 182 days and we'll see Bitcoin dominance expansion. So this next monthly close is going to be quite pivotal, because if we get a monthly close something like this, then we're going to increase in Bitcoin dominance, provided we get a successful retest right over here. But if we monthly close below the green resistance, then maybe there's going to be an altcoin window opening up shortly, with the end of that altcoin window occurring once Bitcoin dominance drops into this technical uptrend. It's all about 57.5% over the next month, over the next 2 months, potentially, depending on how Bitcoin dominance continues to reside and treat 57.5%. Does it turn it into new support to skyrocket, or will it still act as resistance to drop into the technical uptrend here and enable a small altcoin window or two in the process? Thank you so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel for more videos like this in the future. Like this video if you enjoy content like this going forward. I'm Rekt Capital, and I'll speak to you in the next one. Speak to you soon.